Hello, dear travellers, to another episode of Whispers from the Campfire, where the flames of our stories cast shadows on the unknown. Tonight, I'm delving into the eerie world of foreshadowing, captured in just a single frame. I have 3 snapshots to discuss that were taken right before disaster struck. Each image carries an unsettling stillness, so join me as I explore the stories behind the photos. Our first photo is a grim foreshadowing of the dangers in attempting unique ways to ask the biggest question in any relationship. In 2019, Stephen Weber Jr. and his girlfriend Kenesha Antoine went on a holiday to Tanzania. It was a dream holiday, and the couple were having the trip of a lifetime. However, Stephen had a secret agenda to the holiday and wanted to propose to Kenesha. The couple were staying in a submerged cabin at the Manta Resort just off of Pemba Island. Pemba Island was just offshore of Mombasa and was extremely picturesque, and Stephen thought of a unique way to propose to the love of his life. As the couple were in the cabin, Stephen left, and when Kenesha was looking out into the ocean depths, she saw Stephen diving down to the glass window. Stephen made the 30-foot dive in a mask and fins, and held up a note to the window which read, "I can't hold my breath long enough to tell you everything I love about you, but everything I love about you, I love more every day." He then turns the piece of paper over which holds the biggest question of all: "Will you please be my wife?" He's then seen to pull a ring out of his pocket and shows it to Kenesha. Stephen is then seen to swim away, presumably to resurface, but this was the last time Stephen was seen alive. Staff of the resort were called to a problem with the water, but when they arrived, they found Stephen unresponsive. Through their valiant efforts of CPR, he could not be resuscitated. Kenesha later posted a heartfelt message on Facebook that read, "There are no words adequate enough to honour the beautiful soul that is Stephen Weber Jr. You were a bright light to everyone you encountered. You never met a stranger, and you brought so much joy to so many people. You were kind, compassionate, you regularly made me cry with laughter, and you showered me with a love like none I'd ever experienced. You never emerged from those depths, so you never got to hear my answer. Yes, yes, a million times yes, I will marry you." We never got to embrace and celebrate the beginning of the rest of our lives together, as the best day of our lives turned into the worst. In the cruelest twist of fate imaginable, I'll try to take solace in the fact that we enjoyed the most amazing bucket list experiences these past few days, and that we both were so happy and absolutely giddy with excitement in our final moments together. The post does go on, however, the main point is there, that she is extremely saddened by the events of what has happened, as you can expect. However, it remains unknown what happened between the proposal and Stephen trying to resurface. The photo, a haunting reminder of what could have been. In this second photo, it may look like an interesting shot, however it holds a darker story. On August 14, 2005, Helios Flight 522, or the Ghost Plane, was a scheduled passenger flight from Larnaca, Cyprus, to Prague in the Czech Republic that never made its destination. Helios, the company who owned the aircraft, was a low-budget airline and was relatively small in size. The chain of events began on 13th of August 2005, where the plane departed London Heathrow for Larnaca, Cyprus. The flight was mostly uneventful until the crew heard a loud banging coming from the rear right cabin door. Staff made a note of this, and the seal around the door was frozen. These notes were later passed to the captain for review, who spoke to the ground engineer team to conduct a full inspection. A cabin pressurization leak test was conducted through turning the cabin pressurization switch from automatic to manual. However, the team were unable to recreate the problem, and the pressurization switch was failed to be placed back onto auto. On the morning of August 14th, the Helios flight took off 7 minutes late at 9:07 a.m. according to the Aviation Safety Network, but the reason is unclear as to why. The pilots involved, Captain Hans-Jürgen Merten and First Officer Pampos Charalambos, had a history of ignoring or rushing through safety checks, a history that Helios was not aware of. Post-takeoff, and around 5 minutes into the flight, the cabin's altitude warning horn sounded. This should have prompted the pilots to halt the ascent, however this was not done, and this occurred at around an altitude of 12,040 feet. As the plane continued to ascend, the change in pressure led to an inadequate oxygenation of the cabin, and it wasn't able to self-pressurize due to the switch remaining in manual mode. Hans did make a call to the operations center, informing them of an erroneous takeoff configuration alarm, which confused ground crew as this alarm should not sound at their altitude. Ongoing communications with the ground crew became confusing, as Hans would radio out errors but then contradict himself. At around 18,000 feet, the oxygen masks were deployed. The mask offered around 12 minutes of oxygen delivery, which is stated to be enough for a plane to descend to a safe altitude. However, the pilots continued their ascent, now beginning to suffer hypoxia, which may have explained the confusion during their communications with the ground crew. The plane leveled off at approximately 34,000 feet. The plane, now on autopilot, entered into Athens flight information region at 9:37, which usually sparks a radio conversation. However, the pilots failed to make contact, and air traffic control made 19 attempts at contacting the flight. At approximately 10:40 am, the plane entered into the holding pattern near Athens airport, where it remained under autopilot in this holding pattern for 70 minutes. It was at this time the Greek military intervened, either on their own merits or through the request of air traffic control. At 11:05, two F-16 fighter jets were deployed and intercepted the circling Helios flight. The F-16 crew made a report that they saw a male entering the cockpit. This was believed to be a flight attendant by the name of Andreas. Andreas waved to the F-16 crew, but shortly after, the left engine flamed out due to fuel exhaustion, causing the plane to start to descend. Andreas held a UK commercial pilot's license, but had no experience or qualifications to fly the Boeing 737. However, he did bank the plane away from Athens, effectively leading to no ground casualties. And just before 12:04 on August 15, 2005, Helios Flight 522 crashed into the hills in the vicinity of Grammatiko, a village 40 kilometers from Athens. The picture shown was the last photo taken of the flight, and at a time where the passengers and crew, all besides Andreas, had died, making this an eerie and confronting photo. Our final and third image depicts a group of friends in Beirut, Lebanon. In the background you can see a golden SUV. This photo was taken moments before a disastrous event. Lebanon, in 2013, was a place of ongoing conflict and instability, partly due to the Syrian civil war. This conflict exacerbated existing sectarian tensions in Lebanon, particularly between Sunni Muslims, who largely supported the Syrian opposition, and Shia Muslims, who largely supported the Syrian government of Bashar al-Assad. From these growing tensions, a Sunni jihadist group by the name of Abdullah Azam Brigade, with a link to al-Qaeda, planned an attack on the Lebanese militant group Hezbollah. On November 19, 2013, in the southern suburbs of Beirut, Sunni jihadists enacted their plan. They planned on attacking the Iranian embassy to hit a Hezbollah stronghold. Two individuals carried on themselves explosives and began their approach. One of the individuals rode a scooter and approached the embassy's outer wall, detonating the explosives. The second individual drove a car, a golden SUV, which was planned to detonate within the walls of the embassy but was intercepted post the first suicide bomber's attack. The resulting explosions caused massive flames and pillars of black smoke to tower over Beirut. At least 6 buildings were damaged in the attack, but worst of all, 23 civilians were killed and a further 147 were injured. Abdullah Azam Brigade claimed responsibility for the attacks and warned more would come unless the Lebanese-based and Iranian-backed Hezbollah stopped sending fighters to support Syria. The photo shows a group of friends in front of a gold SUV. Little did they know that the SUV was the one involved in the suicide bombing, and how close they were to true horror. Looking at this photo is daunting and confronting, as are the many other photos taken after the bombings, and leaves a reminder of just how finite life can be. Thank you for joining me by the campfire. I wonder if there are any photos we have seen or taken that may be looked at as memories that occurred prior to disaster. It definitely has me looking and questioning. However, I hope you enjoyed these stories. If you did, be sure to like and subscribe. If you have any feedback on improvement, I would like to hear about them in the comments. Until next time, keep the fire burning and the stories alive.